following episode most likely contains graphic language, details of violence, and murder, and may not be suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 42 of Murder with My Mother, the true crime podcast where I talk murder with my mother.
Here I am, everybody.
Here she is in 2023.
Woo! 2023.
Sorry, everybody. We took a longer than anticipated hiatus. Obviously, we were going to take off. We explained to you guys we were going to take off the holiday. And
I don't think we did explain that.
I explained it in my head.
But then the holiday led into intermingling of viruses and COVID and...
Oh, God.
Yeah, we had a rough one for sure.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was just a lot of sickness, a lot of not being camera ready.
I still really don't feel camera ready. Feel still dragged the fuck out.
Yeah, honestly, we had COVID, and this is my second time having it.
It's my first.
It was way worse than the first time. I explained, I think the first time, I had a headache, but I also had just had a C-section and given birth like 2 weeks before. And yeah, this was way fucking worse. Especially having a 1-year-old also having COVID.
And it was the 1-year-old's second time with COVID?
Yes, she also got it when she was 2 weeks old. So poor baby. But yeah, and she also had her first birthday. So
And got about 8 teeth in a minute.
And in 1 minute. So she had COVID and she got 2 teeth and also just was miserable. Ms. Her nickname's Ms. So for a reason.
It is.
Yeah. Well, we hope all of you guys are having a great year so far. We don't say, like, this is our year because we know better than
Because we jinxed ourselves a couple years ago.
2020.
We jinxed the whole planet in 2020 when
so we're
said,
sorry.
2020, yeah, this is our year.
We have a really good feeling about this, which honestly, for me personally, it was probably like a really hard year, but probably
it was
like
a year of growth, let's put it that way.
Yeah, growth. You have to be a little uncomfortable to grow and grow through things. And yeah, so that's how we'll put it. But we don't know if this is our year. We don't know if next year's our year, but we're going to...
This year I turn 50, so possibly it is my year. Hopefully.
It is. Well,
hopefully one of these lights doesn't come down and fall on my head and kill me right as I say that.
Well, fingers crossed. But we're hoping to go somewhere cool for Mom's 50th. But yeah, we'll see because we don't know what's going to happen.
Just to the living room like 2020.
Yeah, well, don't re-jinx it. But yeah, before we get started, let's take a moment and we will give our sponsor a shout, First Sense Dog Dry Shampoo. I know you guys miss hearing those commercials, but
I used it today.
Yes, if you guys ever, don't want to give your dog a full bath, pop on some dry shampoo. My favorite is the lavender. Use code MWMM20 for your 20% off at firstsense.ca.
It smells really good.
Yes.
Better than a dirty dog.
Way better than a dirty dog. But this is a part of the episode, obviously, our regular listeners, you guys know we go into some current events. But not to say that there hasn't been a lot of stuff going on, because there has been, just because, I don't know, there's been a lot. But this episode's going to be a little different because this whole episode is actually going to be kind of a current event.
It is a current event, and it is still unfolding day by day as we are talking.
Yeah.
There was new stuff today even.
Yeah.
And so we have never done an unsolved case before.
Or one that is, because, okay, we all know that people who are charged with certain crimes, it's your right to be presumed innocent until you're proven guilty. But sometimes there's evidence and there's just a lot of stuff that is pretty obvious when someone is, you can't really say that because sometimes there's, this is so obvious.
And then it changes.
And then it
changes.
Down the road. It changes, or it's completely, it's happenstance, right? Like it's completely.
And crazy stuff does happen.
It does.
But in this case, I do believe from the evidence that things are unfolding pretty creepily, pretty like bang on, really.
Yeah. This actually happened about 2 weeks before our last episode dropped. And when anything true crime, anything that happens in the world, mostly, you know, in North America, especially with the internet, you hear about it right away. And, you know, obviously true crime fanatics,
The internet sleuths.
yes, it catches your, you know, your attention because that's what we're into. I always say, like, at my house, it's either Cocomelon or it's murder. It's like there's no in between. It's like Forensic Files or Baby Shark. Like, so really, when something like this happens, it's like, oh, I'm going to keep
riveting,
my eye on that.
for sure.
Especially if you look at the way that somebody is killed or the way a crime is committed, you know, like,
Kind of what's behind it.
exactly.
You know, the feelings, the fact that you imagine yourself at that moment. When I'm learning about a true crime case, you can't help but imagine, what if that happened to me? What if this kind of person came into my house? What if I was killed in this
Yeah.
manner? And this one for me
Same
has
with me.
actually scared the shit out of me
Yeah.
more than any other case we've ever done. And we've done some pretty heinous
Mm-hmm.
cases, but this one I think has scared me because we discussed last time that I had a little bit of issues with
Yeah.
people invading my space because I ventured out online dating again, and there's been a couple things which I'm not online dating anymore.
She's completely sworn it off for now, for this month. So there's
what-
how
yeah.
many more days in January? We'll update you in February.
Yeah, so when
you might have a nice
about
Valentine.
it, whatever. Valentine's with Bob,
Yeah. Bob?
my battery operated
Oh
boyfriend.
my God. Anyway, I'm sorry I asked who Bob was, but no, this case, it's the same with me. We watch this stuff all day long, and
Yeah.
people that are not true crime fanatics are like, what are you watching? That's so freaky. And you're like, oh, yeah.
None of them really like have hit.
No,
though,
this
like
is scary because of and there's so many cases like this, but this one, it entails, if you guys haven't guessed yet, we're discussing the murders that took place on November 13th in Idaho, it's called Moscow, Idaho, and it was 4 college students that lived in a home. 3 of them lived there, one of them didn't live there, but they were killed with a K-bar. So that's why it caught my attention. It was something that was like, someone went in with a huge, like, that's like a jungle, that's like a Rambo knife. So someone went into someone's house, and at first, you know, obviously you think like, oh, well, maybe it was a boyfriend
someone that knew
or a
them
scorned
or
lover,
whatever,
or
but
but
we'll get into all that. And I think that's the thing. Like, I have a dog camera in my house, and this morning I woke up. I get up very early in the morning, and it's still dark. And I woke up, and I had 3 notifications from my dog camera, and my my dog camera alerts me when someone is in my house. If I'm not home and my ex that I still share my dog with comes in to drop the dog off, I get a bzzz on my phone and it says, Furbo spotted a person. And today I woke up and there was 3 or 4 notifications, which I had slept through on my Furbo. And I was honestly, from researching this case, afraid to look at the fucking notifications on my Furbo.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine if it's 4 o'clock in the morning and my Furbo says a person was spotted? Like, just
No.
imagine.
And that's just it. It's
And
like,
I took all my might to look, and it was just like, oh, your camera has gone offline. Your camera has come online. Like, my Wi-Fi was doing
Yeah.
something. Probably didn't pay the bill. Whatever. However, it's affected me.
yeah. No,
Showering.
same. No,
Like, you're
everything. I
thinking-
locked the door. Like, I don't like, and okay, I do lock the door now, but my whole life I never locked the door.
It's because you grew up with
I know,
me.
that's what I mean. But it's very scary. And so we'll just jump right into the case because there's a lot to cover. And again, some of the things that we say in this are speculation because there's so many what ifs, there's so many questions. The stuff that we are going to discuss, obviously it is factual, most of it, because there is an affidavit that we have read. We did a lot of research for this. But yeah, I mean, just knowing what we know about psychology, just true crime knowledge in general. Thank you, Bill Curtis. Thank you, Keith Morrison. We just know some things. So obviously, in our opinions, a lot of it will be speculation, but yeah, we will get right into the case. So this is the case today. Mom did most of the writing for the case. So we will hop into episode 42, the murders of the Idaho
College students.
College students.
On November the 12th, 2022, it was a day like any other in the life of 4 college students. I mean, college student life is super fun.
Theirs looked really fun too.
Super fun. At the University of Idaho in Moscow, Idaho. To preface this, let's talk a little bit about the 4 students that were affected. 3 of them were roommates, like you said, and one of them was the boyfriend of a roommate. So they lived in a large 6-bedroom house off campus.
It almost looked like it was made for college students.
It probably was.
Yeah, because that town is like a big college town. Like it's very, there's
like fun stuff going on every single weekend, or
Yeah.
even probably not even on the weekends. Like
Yeah.
this weekend that this occurred was a big football weekend, and it was also a big sorority weekend. So in the house, there was Madison Mogan. She was 21. Xana Kernodle, who was 20. Her boyfriend, Zach, and he was 20 also. Ethan, sorry. And Kaylee Gonsalves was 21. And Kaylee and Madison had been best friends since the 6th grade, like inseparable best friends.
Yeah, you hear her parents, Kaylee's parents talk about it. They said, even when they're discussing Kaylee, they said, we can't discuss Kaylee without talking about her best friend.
Yeah, they call them their girls.
Yeah, and I have a best friend. I have two best friends that I've had since young, and
Like 2nd grade.
2nd grade, 3rd grade. And when I go to somewhere with to a family event or, a family reunion, like every single person's like, how's Monica? How's Alexis? It's like because when you see 2 people together all the time or 3 people together, you always are going to assume, and friendship is, especially to watch them go through the years, they grade 6 and then they probably had their graduation together and their first love and their first heartbreak in college and the good times and the fun times. And then to share something like this, it's,
And the weird thing too is this day and age, everything's chronicled on social media. And college age people at this point are very, very active on social media.
Yeah.
So if you look through any of their social media accounts, you can trace their relationship back like through the ages.
And we did, because
we did
both of theirs and others' Facebook and Instagram pages.
And as a matter of fact, I discovered that Maddie and Kaylee were here at Faded, I think in 2019. Because
before the best year in the world.
Yeah, before the best year. The town that we're talking about too is only 7 hours from where we live. Like when you hear Idaho or you hear anywhere kind of in the States or whatever, you always kind of picture it as being further away than it is. But we live really close to the border of Washington State. So
yeah, literally we could be at the border. We could be over in Blaine if there was no border crossing in like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So
they were obviously all students, and they also had 2 other roommates, Bethany and Dylan, that they all shared a house. You look at their Instagram, and the actual November the 12th, the day leading into the murders, there's posts with all of the roommates together, which we'll post on our socials.
It's actually the picture that they have used because it's the picture with all of them in it. And if you do, go deep in the creep, you can see lots of pictures of them together.
And
they had so many other friends. So they were obviously kind of like the center, I think, because we've talked about they had kind of like that hangout house, party house.
Yep.
It looked like a cool house to be. It was just the setup was
super
cool.
fun. Like the house was a fun place to hang out, and often hosted parties. Like the night before on November the 11th, they had a party with like over 100 people there. On record, there's tons of noise complaints. There's tons of body cam footage of the cops going there and being like, hey, you again, guys, like, shut it down. And
there was even one time where the police came in the body cam, and none of the people that lived there were actually home. Someone else, they were having a party, but those people, none of them were there.
Because a lot of people knew the code to the door.
Yeah.
Madison and Kaylee, like I said, had been best friends, and Kaylee actually had moved out already. She was planning to graduate, get her degree early, and she already had a job set up somewhere else.
Yeah.
She just came back that night to show Maddie her new Range Rover and go to a certain party that she wanted to go to. And Ethan, the boyfriend of Xana, he was a triplet, and he was super well known around the campus also.
Well, all of his his brother and sister, so there was
They
3
all
of
went to
them.
the
They
same.
all went, and they all were very into Greek life, which is like the beta.
sororities, yeah.
The sororities. And I know that there was also a big party on the 11th too, right? Because you have to think obviously in Canada we have our Thanksgiving a little bit different, but that was a week before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, everyone was like getting ready to go home for Thanksgiving, so they were all saying goodbye to each other and
let's
out.
party our face off.
It looks super fucking fun in that town.
It does,
Like,
yeah.
super fun. So Ethan was Xana's first boyfriend. When you see interviews with her family, they're like, she didn't even like have a boyfriend for so long. We were beginning to wonder if she'd ever have one. And they were apparently inseparable, really close, really cute couple. And that night they were at a party after, you see in the photo, they're all together. It looks like maybe
pre-drinking.
Yeah, or like nursing hangovers from the night before, pre-drinking. Maddie and Kaylee ended up at a local college bar called Corner Club. And Ethan and Xana were at a frat party at Ethan's frat. So just hanging out. Maddie and Kaylee were at the club until 1:30 in the morning. And then there's footage of them afterwards going to a food truck called the Grub Truck. You
Like
can see them like they're eating pasta. They're like jumping on people. Like,
well, that's what you do after
yeah.
you leave somewhere like that, right? You look for the hot dog stand, in my case, or the poutine, or until you get food poisoning, then you don't go there anymore. But no, they were seen, and the food truck itself had like a live Twitch stream, so you can see the video of them, and it's crazy because 2023, we're in 2023 now, but you're being filmed everywhere you go.
It's actually fucked up when
Like
you
we
think
might be
about
being
it.
filmed right now.
We
No, I'm
might
just
be.
kidding, but you know, like,
I
but
thought I was the blonde in the room.
no, but they're literally everywhere you go. There's street cam. There's people live stream twitching. There's people with dash cams. There's people with, a police. There's a vest cam. Every single place you go, which is kind of creepy, but in obviously when something like this happens,
Well, it's easier to
hindsight.
trace for sure.
Exactly.
I mean, call me out of touch, but my friend was driving a Tesla today, and I went to talk to her, and I looked down, and I'm like, is that a camera? She's like, yeah, there's a camera on both sides. I'm like, what? Like, I was
didn't know
totally,
either.
My 1973 came out, and I was totally tripped out by that.
Your Port McNeil.
Yeah, my poor McNeil. So everyone by 2:00 was home.
Because her 2 roommates got home right at 2:00.
Yeah, they got home. They were at 2 separate places, apparently. We don't really
And the
know
roommates'
too much.
names were Dylan and
Bethany.
Bethany, yeah.
So at 2:00, everyone was home. Like, to me, it seems like maybe even it was a little bit of an earlier night because I'm sure when they had the big parties, it was like...
Oh, I'm sure, but also being
Going.
home and people are in your home. I think when
Yeah.
you're used to being home, maybe when you're out, you're like, I just want to go home, And I know that
we are because we're fucking old.
Yeah.
Even you are. That makes me even older.
Yeah, but I know that, like we said, Kaylee had actually moved out already.
Yeah.
So she just came home to kind of show everybody her new whip. And
Yeah, she was doing good in her life, and she was
Yeah.
kind of sad to be leaving the whole scene, but it was also time for her to move on to the next step,
Yeah.
and she was doing really
Well,
really
she had a
well.
boyfriend named Jack Decor, I think was his name, right? It's so cute because when you look at pictures of them from grad, she looks quite mature, and then you look at him and he looks like he's
Yeah.
like 12 years old. Like he's
Yeah.
super cute.
And they're together for 6 years.
Yeah, like I think they went through all of high school together, right? And then they also had a dog together named Murphy, and they actually broke up pretty recently, but they were sharing custody. I don't know if you know anything about that.
I think that's a good idea,
It is,
actually, because
and-
I do it.
Yeah, and you can
Half the cost.
You can remain cordial and civil, especially when you have a 6-year relationship with someone who you basically grew up with.
Yeah.
You can have a respectful relationship where you are still friends.
I think more people should try it, actually.
Same.
So kind of to talk about the layout of this house. So there was 3 floors which people slept on.
Mm-hmm.
And they were pretty well separated. Like the house was big. It was like a couple thousand square feet. 6 bedrooms.
That's why I say I know that it's a college town, but I feel like somebody renovated it so because today's day it's Airbnb, it's renting out short-term rentals, long-term rentals. In college towns, they specifically make the layouts of houses so like, okay, can we get 6 or 7 or 8 students in here because they'll pay more to live here.
Apparently it was around $2,500 for the whole house, but all of the rooms were rented separately. There, it's a lot cheaper.
That's affordable.
But each bedroom, so Dylan and Bethany were sleeping on the first floor, the bottom floor. Xana was on the second floor, so her and Ethan were sleeping on the second floor. And Maddie and Kaylee were sleeping on the third floor, and they were both in Maddie's bedroom because
Kaylee had moved out. But she kept her dog in that bedroom. I think her dog might have been like...
I think it was pretty young.
Yeah.
Like when I saw the pictures.
Like a pouncer dog when you're sleeping. Because I've had
like
one of
some
those.
sort of a doodle.
Yeah, it does look like a doodle. But yeah, so Murphy was sleeping in Kaylee's room.
In the third floor. So around 4 a.m., Dylan...
Quickly, hold on, because I know that it's Dylan, right?
Yeah.
Because I heard, because it's a weird house. So when I was watching, I don't know if you saw there's this 3D thing. Did you see the 3D?
I didn't know.
Okay, you need to see it. So I'll put a little thing in there. There's a 3D layout that somebody did. And actually what happened is the bottom floor is quite weird because you entered on the second floor. The second floor was
It's a split level.
It was a split level, but Dylan was actually sleeping on the second floor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so she was right below Maddie's room.
Okay.
Right below. So then Xana and them were on that floor as well. And then there was another, the other roommate was on
Bethany.
the other floor.
Okay.
The lower one.
So Dylan woke up around 4 a.m. She heard what sounded like Maddie playing with her dog.
Mm-hmm.
With the dog.
Above her, yeah.
With Kaylee's dog. And she could hear voices. And she was just like, what's going on? Basically,
she
woke up
someone,
out of a sleep.
She heard someone say...
She thought she heard Kaylee say, there's someone here. And then she could hear crying from another room. And then she heard a man's voice saying, it's okay, I'm going to help you. So, like, all of that is fucking creepy.
Well, and you don't know, was Dylan super intoxicated? Was she on drugs? I mean, speculation, right?
Yeah,
you don't
who
know,
knows?
and drugs can be fun. I don't know.
Well, and also,
who knows?
Yeah, she's also a young...
And she's also been sleeping now for 2 hours.
Yeah.
So she could have been completely sober, but wake me up and let me hear some things. I'll be like, what the fuck? You know, what is happening? You're out of sorts, right?
Totally.
And you don't think of living in a house that's that busy. You are probably not paying attention to half the stuff.
Well, and the thing is, like, I'm sure when you live in a house, like a party house like that, there's people coming and going. Like, apparently all of the rooms had their own keypad locks on them. So it's like it is like an Airbnb. It's like you have your own little space.
Yeah.
In a nightclub, basically, that you're trying to sleep through. And I'm sure they got used to living that life.
Well, we've all been to a house like that. You had a house like that, but you didn't know about it. But it was your house, and I was the party
host. And there was
host.
no locks on the door because everything got fucking stolen every time.
Yes. But we've all been to a place like that where you're like, oh, where do I get some quiet here or whatever, trying to sleep, or you're so drunk that you're trying to sleep and it's like, oh, I can't hear, we've all been somewhere like that.
Sounds fun. I wish I could get up and join. So she opened the door a couple times, and the last time she opened the door, she was faced with a man coming towards her.
Well, she said, I guess she had opened the door like this, and someone was coming like this.
Clad in black clothing, head to toe, with a mask on, but just covering...
Like a COVID
yeah, like
mask.
a COVID mask, like covering the nose and mouth area. And all she could see was bushy eyebrows.
Yeah.
And then she just froze and was shocked and frozen in place, and then just went back in her room and
locked the door.
Oh, the man was going towards the sliding glass door and left.
Yeah.
So that's fucking freaky.
But at the same time, I mean, obviously, her going back in her room and closing the door.
Yeah, because she was used to stuff like
Well, you're used to stuff. Plus, I mean, that is freaky. So your first concern is always yourself. No matter what. Obviously, yes, once you have children, but they always say, save yourself first because you can't save anyone else without yourself. So obviously, seeing that, I'm sure she was like, what the fuck, you know?
But I don't know that
Closed
it
it,
actually
locked
even
it.
registered, so
No.
I don't know that she might not have been intoxicated because
No.
she just went back in her room and went to sleep.
Yeah.
At 11:58 a.m., the Moscow police or 911 got a phone call about an unconscious person being in the house. And it was a bunch of friends that had called. At that point there, I guess the other roommates had called other people over.
Yeah.
And they were thinking, I think because the doors were locked in each room, that the person they were trying to wake up, and they don't say who that was
Yeah.
unconscious.
Well, I watched something that said the unconscious person thing is actually what the operator just says when they don't want to broadcast it over the radio.
Okay, well, that does make sense.
Yeah, because I think
Because that's
what
like
you're
a
about to
little-
talk about, there was a lot of evidence of something like that.
Yes.
Because I've heard that it was unlike a lot of other, like a lot of other murders, very gruesome.
Yeah, so when the police went there, it was a horrific
Yeah.
scene where they discovered that all 4 people had been murdered.
I was reading another thing too. It said that the outside, this is kind of obviously hard to listen to. So if you can't,
Trigger warning.
yeah, trigger warning, they could smell the smell of blood from outside.
Oh.
And I guess there was
That's
a crowd
terrible.
of students around because also the brother of Ethan, the twin brother or the triplet, one of the triplets, he was supposed to go to some study group.
Yeah.
And they were waiting for him, and it's like, hey, are you coming? And then it was like, no, I think Ethan's dead.
He's dead, yeah.
And they were all kind of, obviously, because you're going to want to go right to that person. You know where they are. So obviously, it kind of word got around. And especially if it's the place to be, and those are the people, they seem very friendly, and like they were friends with everybody.
And also the house was like, we'll put out the map of where everything is. Everything's in super close proximity.
Yeah, it's all
Like,
very close.
They could see from the sorority house, everyone could see that house. Like that house was a little
It's
bit
kind of on a
up.
hill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after they discovered that they were all murdered, the police sent out a text message, just a broad text message in the community saying there's been a homicide on King Road, stay out of the area, and shelter in place.
Yeah. But they did say right away that the public didn't have anything to worry about.
They did, so I'm going to get to that.
Yeah.
And then after they discovered this, obviously they started searching the yard and the garbage bins and all of that kind of stuff around the house. So pretty quickly it got out, like I said, who the people were that had been murdered. And the police released a statement, and they said that the murder was not random, it was targeted, and there was no danger to the public. So...
But it's
I
like
don't-
saying that, it's like it was targeted, but the fact that it
But
could
they have
be
no idea who
randomly
did it.
targeted, exactly, to say you have nothing to worry about.
Yeah. And they also said,
I'm sure that the police department has gotten a lot of scrutiny for that. I mean, I
they
don't
have.
need to-
They've actually apologized.
Yeah.
So they said that the surviving roommates could have slept through the murders because the killer may have had the advantage of surprise since the victims were likely asleep. And they may have been killed in such a way, they didn't release the manner of death right away,
Yeah.
that they may have been killed in such a way that it was difficult for them to scream.
Yeah, and I know that there is a big question mark as to why it took Dylan or, obviously the other roommates, people that were in the house, because that was 4:15?
Yeah,
Ish.
so they figured
That she saw that masked person, but they didn't call police until almost noon.
the next
Which
day.
she could have been sleeping, right?
She probably was sleeping.
Yeah,
She was in college
exactly.
and hungover,
Yeah.
probably.
So she could have been sleeping, and then that's what I think. But you go on all the Reddit threads, you go on every single thing, and it's like, why didn't she call the police? She's sus, this. She's obviously, too, if you do think something's wrong and you're scared, or you did see something and you're traumatized, or you don't know what what
I mean,
what has happened.
everyone reacts differently to trauma and to being in a situation that they've never been in before.
Well, and seeing something that you can't make sense of that obviously makes very clear sense later when all of your friends are murdered.
When it does make sense, it's like the most, like something you couldn't even imagine that would occur. Like it's not even somewhere your mind would go.
No, and especially, like we said, having people coming in and out of the house all the time. It's not, you're not going to automatically go to, oh, well, they're probably
getting murdered. I better call the police. So on November the 15th, the Moscow Police Department issued a statement saying that an edged weapon, such as a K-bar knife, was used in the killings, but no murder weapon had been found. On November 16th, the Moscow Police Department holds a press conference about the murders. Police Chief James Fry said it was a targeted attack. We do not have a suspect at this time, and the individual is still out there. So that's like a total contradiction.
Yeah.
On November 17th, the Latah, I think I'm pronouncing it right, but it's Latah. Latah. I'll say Latah because it sounds fancy.
Yeah, there we go.
County Coroner's Office reports the victims were likely asleep and they were stabbed with a large knife. Some even had defensive wounds on their bodies. November the 18th, so this is kind of unfolding pretty rapidly. The family said they weren't getting enough information, but I think you would feel like that no matter what. Mm-hmm. Generally, there's holdback evidence because they don't want to give everything out. Like, a lot of times they won't even release the method of
I'm surprised that they let some things out that they did.
Me too. November the 18th, police released an aerial map showing the times and locations where the victims were on the night of November the 12th, 2022, and in the early morning hours of November the 13th. So right away, like already at this point, the internet sleuths, the Reddit people, everyone's going crazy, and everyone's starting to pinpoint and blame people.
Oh, always.
Like the ex-boyfriend of Kaylee was getting, like, people were all over that it was him because she had called him 7 times.
I think between her and Maddie it was 10 times.
Yeah,
it was
like they kept calling him.
He called 3.
Who knows why?
It's called phone circle. Me and my friends do it all the time. If you're not going to answer my phone call, you're going to answer Monica's. If you're not going to answer Monica's, you're going to answer Alexis's.
Maybe the dog was being annoying and they wanted him to pick it up.
Yeah, that's why
like,
he was in the
knows?
room. It's like, get the fucking dog. We're drunk and we're trying to sleep. Like, fuck, you know.
The
and
dog's
so
biting our hair or whatever. Like,
that's what I mean when I know why the dog was in the room, because I've had a dog like that. And
yeah, so who knows? So everyone was kind of pinpointing, like, oh, maybe it was him. And then there was another guy.
The sweater guy from the food truck
The
Twitch.
sweater guy, they released, like, people were putting on Reddit, like, this jacket, look for this jacket. It was that guy. Like, that poor fucking guy.
That's the thing about sleuths. And even for us, I mean, I have had cases where I'm like, oh, it was for sure this guy. Everything adds up. And no, it was a random.
It was their grandma.
No, but, you know, it's very, you can have an idea or you can really be sure. But until you have the hard evidence and until you have everything that you need to tie somebody definitively to a murder or to anything.
Well, and this, like, so on November,
even the guy grieving, like the poor guy, you know,
even
like,
the guy that so the cool thing about the way that town was set up is they even had like someone that would stay sober in a night to drive everyone home from parties. It was like a shared ride service amongst the fraternities. Yeah. So those the 2 girls that Kaylee and Maddie called one of these guys to drive them home. Like, they were super safe about their whole night. And then even he was getting accused.
That's what the parents say. They're, you know, what the girls did, every single thing that they did that night
was right.
And every single thing, obviously, the house parties of like, hey, sorry, police. But every single thing that they did is like the epitome of being safe in your environment, knowing your surroundings, knowing who you're getting a ride with, everything. And then you're at your own home, in the comfort of your own home, in your bed. But
ironically, everything they did was safe, except for pretty much the whole town knew their code to their house. Yeah. So,
and that they probably left their sliding glass door open, right? But
and they didn't release until November 19th. That the police did not say until November 19th that the people that everyone's accusing, like the driver, the boyfriend, all of that, are not involved. So these people went through like 6 days, a week, basically, of being accused of stuff they didn't do.
Well, and in a town so small and so close-knit, you would probably, I mean, you don't always know, but you would probably know this is the guy with the K-bar.
Yeah.
Because you can't just be like completely sane and go into a home and kill 4 people with a K-bar. That's literally like a huge machete.
It's crazy. So imagine even looking around at people, like I'm sure everyone started to doubt each other.
Which
at
is
that
what
point,
happens, right? It's, until the suspect is apprehended, nobody knows.
And then there was another rumor going on, which police say they don't have any proof of, that Kaylee said that she had a stalker. So she had told a couple people that she had a stalker, and I read online that she had been followed around a store by some random guy.
She was beautiful, and guys are fucking creepy. They were all beautiful. Ethan was beautiful too. They were all, like, all of them were very, nice, good looking, young. But the thing is, I'm sorry, men, for all of our male listeners. Sorry, Dan. But a lot of guys are fucking weirdos.
Well,
weirdos.
I'm learning that minute by minute.
Mom let me in on a group. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it. It's called "Are We Dating the Same Guy?" And literally, so many guys mom has dated are in this group.
Not even dated, just like talked to because I haven't dated anyone.
I was watching
ever.
another thing today where it's like, oh, I matched with this guy on Tinder, and then it's like, and then I went and I checked, and he's on the #1 list for stalking, most wanted. But that's what I mean with this is you
don't know someone.
No, and the thing is, she might have been followed multiple times by totally other people because she was gorgeous. And I'm sorry, but like 60% of guys are fucking creeps.
So just to sidebar this conversation, after the stalker, the next guy I spoke to after that was from my hometown, seemed like a nice person, had a great job. Someone from the same town happened to know him and said, that's the guy that abducted his girlfriend. And I looked on his CSO because like I fucking said before, I look at everyone's CSOs.
She's going to take herself out with the microphone.
And he had two assault with a deadly weapons charges just in May. So I get that this can happen 100%.
Yeah, but like just to say, it could
have been
necessarily mean that the stalker
killed.
No, she could have had multiple stalkers because there's a lot of fucking weirdos out there.
Yeah.
But obviously, when someone is murdered like this, and
they're looking at everything.
Yeah, and that is obviously very important, that if she did have someone that was following her and maybe so in love with her, or you don't know.
Or who even knows?
Yeah.
So on November 25th, investigators collected 113 pieces of physical evidence and sent it to the state police crime lab, and the Idaho governor that same day directed $1 million extra in funds to fund the ongoing investigation. So this is how much it's affecting everyone. November 30th, the University of Idaho holds a vigil in honor of the murdered students, and some of the parents were there. And the mom of Maddie, I believe, said, the most important message we have for you and your families is to spend as much time together as possible with the people you love.
It's true.
It was actually Ethan's mom that said that. And so police get a possible clue shortly after that. On December the 15th, a trooper's body cam captures a white Hyundai Elantra. That was after. A white Hyundai Elantra was stopped twice in Indiana for driving violations. But they came down to asking people in the town also if they had seen a white Hyundai Elantra.
2011 to 2013.
Yes. So they had seen this car. Obviously, the police were going around. Like we said,
everyone has cameras.
There's cameras everywhere. There's cameras at gas stations. There's cameras on
people's houses, doorbells.
Everywhere.
On street lights, on everything. And they noticed a white Elantra sitting by the house a lot.
So they noticed actually the night of the murders, there weren't a lot of cars on the road. It was a pretty sleepy time obviously
Yeah.
at 4 o'clock in the morning. And there was a white Hyundai Elantra, or a white sedan, they thought was a Hyundai Elantra, with no front license plate, traveling around the area 3 times. The first 3 times it was just kind of casing out. And one of the campus security actually noticed first. And then it came around again the 4th time and tried to kind of do a U-ey by the house, but ended up being an Austin Powers 4-point turn or whatever. And that car was spotted right around that time. Next thing we hear, there's been a white Hyundai Elantra that they're investigating in Oregon. That one turned out to not be the right car. That one had no ties. The next thing we hear is there's one pulled over heading to Pennsylvania.
And it was pulled over within 5 minutes or something, twice?
Within 10 minutes, it's pulled over twice, and both times the driver is tailgating. So
Stuff. You just got pulled over. And both times, he didn't get a ticket. He just got 2
just
warnings.
Was spoken to. Just given 2 warnings twice, 10 minutes apart. So the driver that was stopped was 28-year-old Bryan Kohberger, who was accompanied by his father. So
Bryan was driving. His father was in the passenger
He was
seat.
driving, and they were driving Bryan home from Washington State University, which is 8 miles away from the town of that the Washington State University is in, and the town that the Idaho University, the Moscow town, is only 8 miles apart from each other.
And it's in Pullman, Washington.
Pullman,
right?
Washington, and Moscow are only 8 miles apart from each other.
Which is 10-minute drive?
Yeah. So Bryan was driving home to go back to Pennsylvania.
Because it was almost Christmas. It was he was a student, a PhD student at in Pullman, at the University of Washington, and his dad actually flew from Pennsylvania to
drive
be like,
out with
hey bud, do you want me to come in
Yeah.
come on the ride with you or whatever? I mean, I don't know if that's how he talked, but you guys know me. Everyone talks like that. But so, his he's like, yeah, sure, whatever. So they're driving together, and
they
Bryan
get pulled over.
Kohberger is, that's not
So he's
the first time we hear that
a
name.
PhD student at the Washington State University, and law enforcement say that they were able to, they basically stopped him twice, and then the next thing you know is January or December 30th, I think, the FBI fully stormed his house.
Yeah.
Kicked in the windows.
Yeah. First, I remember hearing, because they kept saying they found in the bed with Kaylee and Maddie, they found a sheath.
That
a
would
knife
hold
sheath.
the K-bar knife.
So, I mean, obviously, we never like to say, why would you do that? Because every little thing that someone does when they commit a murder, if that can lead detectives, investigators in your direction, fuck yeah.
And it had DNA on it.
It did. And it was a military style sheath with an eagle and a star on it. And the thing is, if someone's going to commit a murder, and in the way that we think that, there's motives, there's all this, like I said, speculation, but, you always hear people, what's that movie called? Murder by Numbers. It's the Ryan Gosling. I've talked about this movie before, but Sandra Bullock's detective, Ryan Gosling, and this other kid who they're not even really friends. He wants to commit the perfect murder, and they do things like, you saran wrap your whole body except for just, and then it's just every little thing where you're not leaving evidence, you're not leaving DNA, you're not leaving this, you're not going to leave any parts of yourself there so no one would know you did it. You'd get away with it, and that's it. But somebody leaving the sheath of your knife, that's how they knew it was a big knife, because of the sheath.
Especially when you're a criminology student going for your PhD. He already had a master's degree, this guy that they...
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? Someone left the sheath there in the bed with Kaylee and Maddie.
Yeah, so it was kind of tucked to the side.
Yeah, and what they did with that is they swabbed it for DNA, and the best of... I always want to do the family tree DNA, but if I have a relative that has, which I probably do, have a relative that's committed a crime and it's unsolved and they're in the database.
Yeah, they
If
can do
I
the
ran
familial.
the familial DNA would be like, this person's father is the father of 15 other people. No, I'm just kidding. But that's my father actually. But no, in this case, they swabbed the DNA and it came back as who was in the system is Bryan Kohberger's father.
Yeah, so the DNA, I guess they had gone through the garbage and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's speculation that they knew the whole time or suspected the whole time, and that's why they kept pulling him over, was just to stall and see, like, kind of get a read on him, and like they did that on purpose because really it's kind of weird that you get pulled over and not charged 2 times
Well,
in
also
10 minutes.
I think it threw them off because his Elantra was 2015. So it wasn't what they were looking for. So the Bolo was like, and he didn't seem like he's a really creepy guy. But he does have big bushy eyebrows and like dead eyes.
Yeah.
But the bushy eyebrows, if you guys recall, that's what the roommate said that she had seen in the black mask.
And
that was
his physical description matched also.
Yes, she said something about not very muscular, tall.
Athletic build,
But
tall,
not
but thin,
muscular, yeah. And creepy eyes and bushy eyebrows. And this guy, I mean, I don't know if she said the creepy eyes part, but I said it because his fucking eyes are super creepy. If I were to see those with those eyebrows,
He
like you're
reminded
never
me of
forgetting that.
Charles.
Manson?
No.
Oh, Charles. Yeah.
Totally.
Sorry, you guys don't know who Charles is, but
I can't
we'll
say.
put a
in case
picture
he-
up of
in case
Charles.
he-
I'm just kidding. We
You'll
won't.
be like, "Fuck yeah, it's
Yeah.
his twin."
But yeah, so
they stormed his house on December the 30th.
they like blew out all the windows.
Yeah,
they used a
they-
SWAT team, like
Yeah.
blew out all the windows of his family's home.
Imagine his poor mom.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, you.
Although she might have been creepy. So.
Well, I mean, you do. It is sad for the parents and the families of these people too, because what the
Well,
fuck?
they probably still think he didn't do it anyway.
Yeah, but
So he was charged with burglary and 4 counts of first-degree murder, and he waived his right to extradition, and they sent him back to Idaho because he was in Pennsylvania. That's quite a far ways.
Yeah, well, he said like let's speed it up so that I can be extradited. I mean, so that I can be exonerated.
Yeah.
Completely. But then, are you going to talk about the Papa?
Yeah.
Papa Roger?
So as things were breaking in the very beginning on Reddit, one of the internet sleuths.
There's obviously discussion boards.
Yeah, there's discussion boards, and as you go through the discussion boards, there was one internet sleuth that was proposing a bunch of what ifs, and that person's name was Papa Roger.
Mm-hmm. And their display picture actually was like a side profile, kind of resembles Bryan Kohberger.
But old.
Yes, but has a eagle and a star. It's like an army guy, Papa Roger. And he was saying things like, what if the killer didn't know other people were going to be in the house and didn't mean to kill all these other people, like, didn't plan for this? Or another thing was the Papa Roger said, what if they found a sheath, which is this was like days, I think 5 days before they announced that they found the sheath. Yeah, they said, Papa Rogers said, what if they found the sheath? That's how they would know what kind of knife it is, and da-da-da-da. And
he had speculating.
No, they wouldn't leave a sheath behind. And there's so much speculation. Same thing with, they said there was no sexual motivation for this killing. That's what the police said.
But Papa Roger said, what if there was sexual motivation, but the killer was sexually defunct, basically?
Well, someone else said the dysfunctional part, and then Papa Rogers was like, no, it's the personality that Bryan Kohberger apparently had was, well, apparently he was in high school, he was addicted to heroin. Yeah. He was quite chubby, and then he got a heroin addiction, and then he lost a lot of weight, but he was always people that knew him said he was very above everybody else.
He thought he was better than everyone
very
else.
Smart, which is we hear all the time with sociopaths.
Yep.
And also even just having to, someone was in his class and said, they'd roll their eyes every time he put his hand up because they're like, oh, fuck, it's going to take 30 minutes because Brian's answering the question. So somebody like that, they have, this air about them of, speaking, like it's kind of like they're talking down to you. They're too smart. They're smarter than you.
But that's usually what gets them caught, as we know from previous cases. And another thing that he has in common with a lot of other killers is that he had actually applied for an internship with the Pullman Police Department.
Oh, yeah. You always hear that.
Yeah. So it said in his application essay, he had said he had an interest in assisting in rural law enforcement agencies to better collect and analyze technological data investigators check the movements of.
So speaking of that, they have everything that is tying Bryan Kohberger. Obviously, the DNA is huge. But that could be argued, he made it, maybe he touched at the store.
Maybe he was at the party.
Right? But the only person's DNA on that was his. And another thing they have is his phone had pinged, not even just in the area. It had pinged in the area multiple times. I think about 12 times.
Over 12
but
times.
You guys know, everybody knows, okay? I've been close enough to someone's house and it's like, why the fuck is my phone so shitty? And I'm close. And it's like, oh shit, I'm connecting to this person's Wi-Fi accidentally, because you have to be close for that. And
it was so close that it was joining their Wi-Fi on several occasions. And also, during the time of the murders, it was completely not showing. The phone was off the network, so
his
it was
phone
turned
was off and turned on.
And then it got turned back on between 2:47 a.m. and 4:48
it was off.
a.m. It was off. And then you see it when he turns it back on, it's coming from the direction of Moscow.
You also, because like we said, there's cameras everywhere. There's a video of him leaving his place, in Pullman. And like we said, let's say it takes about 10 minutes to get there to Moscow, to King Road, to the house. He is seen pulling out of his apartment building or wherever he lives, seen pulling out. His car is picked up at the King Road house, like right in the area at around 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
So Xana actually was up at 4 o'clock getting a DoorDash order.
Which is so even more freaky because everyone was supposed to be sleeping and attacked in their sleep.
They were coming through the front door, right? Which is the bottom floor. And so the top floor, the middle floor is where the sliding glass door was, which is where Dylan saw the person exit. So think about it. You're getting your DoorDash order. I've been there, 4 o'clock in the morning, and you're going through your house. And imagine you came upon a guy in a mask. Obviously, if this person is coming in the house, and speculation again, I believe that Kaylee was the target, because when Dylan said that he heard the dog jump off the bed or playing, it sounded like Kaylee was playing with the dog. I bet what happened, and again, speculation, he went upstairs to Kaylee's room first to check if Kaylee was there and opened the door, and the dog came off the bed like, hey, play with me, play with me, I want to pull on your hair. It's a dog. So obviously he probably shut the door and then went into Maddie's room, opened the door and found them there. But that's when I think, obviously, if, say, Kaylee heard someone jumping off.
Someone's here.
The dog is jumping around. She's probably like, that's when Dylan heard her say,
someone's here.
I think someone's here. Yeah. Which they probably thought maybe it was Jack, or maybe it was,
one of their
someone's
friends.
Here, not thinking it's someone this. So we don't know when Xana and Ethan were killed, which, I mean, I'm thinking it's before, right? Because you also think that, right?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know. And that's the difference about this case is, like, it's all unfolding every single day, and it's going to be so interesting to see how it plays out. Yeah. Also, Idaho does have the death penalty. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be super interesting.
Yeah.
It's terrible and it's sad and it's scared the shit out of me, but it's definitely...
It is scary, and we always tell everybody, lock your door. For real, though, like, lock your door, look around you, be aware.
Turn your fur boa off.
There was a girl working at Starbucks, and a guy, did you see that? The guy was going through the drive-thru and tried to pull her arm out the window and tried to lasso her with a zap strap around her neck.
Oh, my God.
And that's how Israel Keys killed someone, too, stole her from one of his victims from some place she was working. So, work, home, wherever you are, even if you're in a super unsafe place, like, be even that much more...
Be aware of your surroundings.
Exactly. Be aware. obviously we can't give you guys the end of this case because this is so current and we don't know what's going to happen. Bryan Kohberger, I think his first trial date's set for June. So we're going to be waiting a while. I'm thinking because of the trial, there's going to be a lot of evidence that does not become public because just solely based on the fact that they want to have the strongest case.
Well, and people can wreck it. Like,
exactly.
That's what I mean. People are so on top of each detail that.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing with the internet sleuths, you know, like obviously being one myself, I'm not so much a sleuth, but it's, you know, I'm in all these threads. I'm in all these discussion groups. I'm for every single murder, which no wonder why I have anxiety, like talk about murder every day and have 5 iced coffees. But no, really, we don't know what's going to happen because you've seen cases where they're like, oh, this person, OJ, this person is 100% guilty. Casey Anthony.
Yeah. And then they get off in the end.
And then it's like, what? Because you don't know who is going to be on the jury. You don't know what they're going to see, what's going to set them to be like, maybe he didn't do this. Pretty sure he did it. Just given everything, we obviously, Bryan Kohberger is the person that I believe committed these murders.
Same.
I am very, 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 like, I just want to know. I want to know why. That's why I love true crime. That's why you love true crime. I want to know what makes your brain do that fucked up shit that you do that I wouldn't do. Yeah. But it's the infamy too, the notoriety, the getting away with it. But it's like, well, joke's on you, buddy, because you got arrested like not even a month later or a month and a half later. At it. Like, yeah. Yeah. You left a sheath. Like, that's like this, which again, good thing you did because that's what got him in the first place. But little things like that. And, you know, I know that Kaylee's parents said it's because, like, they have a feeling that Kaylee's, like, helping solve her own murder. Like, she took the sheath kind of thing and, like, hid it or whatever happened. But think about it. It's too creepy.
It is very creepy.
It is because you never know who's watching you. And, like, that's fucking really weird.
So I'm going to just have to take a break from thinking like that, though. Like, I'll be aware of my surroundings, but this one's definitely getting...
Please don't start internet dating again. I'm going to be, the most anxious person. Go bald. Like, oh, my God. But, yeah, just everybody stay safe. 2023 is the year of safety and knowing your surroundings. And it's not our year,
50
but
also.
It is. So Mom will be 50 this year. But 50 and, like, can you please just be safe? Like 50 and safe? Can you make that like your new thing?
That sounds really fucking boring.
Well, boring is better than the latter, you know? But anyway.
Anyway, well, that was the case of the Idaho 4.
It's still unfolding.
The developing case.
Yeah. So we will definitely check out all of our socials. Check out our Instagram. Obviously, if you're watching this, you're on our YouTube. Subscribe, like, comment, all that stuff. Or don't. I mean, I don't really give a shit, and I hate saying that, but I really don't. I hope you do. Hope you know, but just...
It's kind of been a little bit all over the place today just because there has been so much speculation, and... It's been kind of cool to sit and theorize together. And
if you guys want to shoot the shit about it, talk about it, you
send
guys message us.
A message for sure.
Yeah, we're not active on TikTok because I don't.
Because we're too old
still
to figure
breastfeeding
it out.
Somebody who's large and just
and biting.
Oh God! But I don't have as much time as I would like. If one of you guys wants to manage our social media, shout out to me because
except for Bryan Kohberger or Sandra.
Yeah. Oh, Sandra, I hope you're not even listening to this. And Michelle Wilson. We had to get that out of there. Not LaBerge. We're sorry. It's
yeah.
What are you looking at me like you didn't get that text message?
I thought you got it mixed up.
And Michelle, stay safe from that guy that drives that car we were talking about, aka the car we all know.
And I have to give I got asked for a shout out by Sandy today. At work, so
Barar?
Yeah, shout out to Sandy.
Wow, I probably shouldn't say your last name on a show, like a murder show. But hey, Sandy. But
hey, Brent.
Oh, hey, Brent. Yeah, Brent and Sean. We'll just say we could literally be here for like 45 minutes giving every single person a shout out. But anyway,
our time
come
is
back in a couple weeks. We will be back for episode 43, which we will get back to regular channels of
unless
doing another case.
Fucking big happens. And then
you guys will obviously still get the current events, but next time I will be back with a case that I get to choose. But yeah, if you have any suggestions, hit us up.
Let us know.
So as always, This has been Murder with My Mother, the true crime podcast where I talk murder with my mother.
The safe 50-year-old.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Bye.